Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So Arnim Zola's deep dives out and he actually does look quite good in my opinion. Not visually, obviously he does look a bit wonky, but he's kind of meant to. At the same time, there are quite a lot of people who do not like his character model and the graphics. But as a champion, I think he actually might have quite a bit of uses, and let's break that down. So first, obviously, let's mention his main mechanics, which would be his special lock. He can choose with the pre-fight to special lock opponents level 1 or level 2, and that gets activated after you throw your own special attack. And then he can stack up quite a lot of disintegrations, which, comes great in combination with Inequity and Despair Masteries. And past that point, he just has very distinctive rotation and quite a lot of small and niche abilities that would be quite useful in everyday scenarios, and I think could potentially allow him to open up some matchups, which we're gonna go over, which champions I think he could potentially be good for afterwards as well. So here we go, the pre-fights. You can choose special lock level 1 or level 2, and it goes active for 20 seconds after you activate your own special attack. He does have access to a passive sleep mechanic, and let's take a look at his base rotation here as well. So effectively, you do want to charge up to your 20 Wi-Fi charges by effectively blocking opponents' attacks. You get, I believe, 3 of them, and you want to push opponent to a level 2 and activate your own special 1 that will give you a Fury buff and an Energize. After that, you want to parry about 20 charges by putting opponent to sleep, and at that point you can kind of start spamming your heavy attacks. Your opponent will be special locked. The disintegration ensures that you will be able to throw way more heavies than normal, and then go for level 1 to detonate all of your disintegrations. It is super important to mention that the disintegration detonation is tied to his SIG ability. Obviously, in different matchups, you can choose to special lock opponents level 2, but that does kind of take him out from his damage loop, which is less than ideal in, specific scenarios where, well, damage is important or time is of the essence. Right, so let's break down all of his abilities, because we do have that post already on the Kabam blog. So a brilliant Swiss scientist, I'm not going to read the flavor text, but effectively here are his stats. He's marked as 4 in survivability, 3 in damage, 2.5 in ease of use, 3 in utility, and 5 in defender strength. Now, he will have more counters than somebody like Serpent, and he's not going to be quite the same to fight like Enchantress. The basic idea is you just want champions that either have dots and do not rely massively on special attacks. I think the massive reliance on special attacks is kind of like the main key. You want a lot of basic attack damage or basic hit dots in order to take him down quite well, and then he should be quite simple. So, with a myriad of technical tricks and aptitude for planning, Arnim Zola can swing fights in his favor. By targeting specific special attacks, Zola can block out his opponent's threats before disintegrating them to dust. Very powerful defender, Zola is sure to make things difficult for champions that are overly aggressive or makes a critical error exploiting to deal damage with special attacks. So, strengths, specific special locks, hyper durability with very high base armor and no means for the opponent to bypass it with critical hits. Zola is extremely tanky. His special 3 also allows for a full health reset and disintegrations, messing with the opponent's combat power rate. Now, he's a tech champion with not direct power control, but he does have his special lock and disintegrations, which reduce opponent's combat power rate. Weaknesses, heavy attacks. Zola's sleep is one of his main defensive threats that can only be played around by heavy attacking him. Landing heavy attacks against him can be difficult since his non-contact attacks make him difficult to parry, but champions like Angela, who can parry non-contacts, or Gladiator, who can heavy right out of the combo, will be very successful at keeping his sleep threat in check. That is also a key mechanic that he has. His first medium and light attacks are non-contact, so effectively he is going to be borderline impossible to parry in regular fights. True damage, true strike and true damage allows you to bypass the armors and resistances, so that's that. And big basics, damaging effects, as I mentioned before. So abilities. let's get down to the nitty-gritty. Advanced robotics provide full immunity to bleed and poison. So, a robot. No willpower Zola, by the way. And Zola's ability accuracy and combat power rate can only be modified by his own effects. That means he should be good against Domino, because all of his effects, as far as I remember, are guaranteed, so there should be no crit fail damage. And no combat power rate modification is quite interesting, and that is primarily to stop armor shatter. Medusa against robots, for instance. Yeah, he's also a tech champion that's gonna be strangely good against a ton of cosmics. Can be nuked by Galen, for instance, which we're gonna get to. His armor breaks and armor shatters don't really do much against him either. And yeah, it's gonna be quite interesting. So the critical penetration of the opponent's basic attacks is reduced by 80% flat. And Zola cannot lose more than 10% of his max health from a single damage source other than Special Attack 3. So, that takes out Galen and like a massive amount of burst damage from any single source. Zola's first medium and first light attacks are kinetic pulses that do not make contact, which automatically makes him a solid counter to champions like Atuma or Korg, for instance. Well, against Atuma, I guess it wouldn't be as easy. I wonder what his heavy attack counts as. But definitely Korg is a champion that you can take with Zola, in my opinion. Right, so despite being a metallic robot, Zola isn't much bothered by the effects of magnetism or organic magnetism, and even armor shattered won't do much to shut him down. So there you have it. Systems of control. Zola can activate a pre-fight ability to select either Special 1 or Special 2 lock. When he finishes Special Attack, he inflicts these as a 20-second passive. And if neither pre-fight is selected during the opponent's special attacks, they are inflicted with a 30% cowardice buff, which is making him tankier. As a defender, this becomes 90% cowardice passive. So special attack damage is heavily going to get mitigated. And that is the main thing I think that's going to make him annoying. Aside, well, on top of his sleep mechanic. Let's carry on. ESP box sleep. When Zola is struck by anything other than a heavy attack, he gains an indefinite ESP charge. When Zola blocks any hit, he gains 3 charges, max stacks 30. 20 plus charges before being hit by a basic attack, Zola has a 10% chance to consume all ESP charges and inflict sleep passive for 3 seconds. For each charge over 20, this chance is increased by 5% flat. During a well-timed block, that chance is increased to 100%. This is mainly so you can activate a guaranteed sleep yourself quite easily. If Zola is knocked down by a heavy attack, he loses 10 ESP charges. Quite crucial there. And that is, what you're going to have to do against the guy. You're going to have to heavy him quite a lot. Right, disintegration gauntlets. Heavy attacks. The first hit of Zola's heavy attack inflicts half a second disintegration debuff, half a % disintegration debuff, dealing 116 direct damage over half a second. If the opponent was not stunned, then inflict 5 additional ones. When the opponent is suffering from any of those disintegration effects, all of Zola's hits inflict another disintegration effect. These disintegration debuffs are paused while Zola is charging or performing a heavy or a special attack. And the final hit of Zola's special attack removes them. Super important to note, this does not extend to strikers, so you cannot use strikers to extend his damage loop, kind of in a sense. And yeah, if you have him awakened, he will inflict a burst damage upon the removal of these disintegrations. But the entire point, this is his kind of damage loop. You do want to special lock your opponent and spam heavies until you get to level 2 yourself, and then drop a level 2 and inflict additional damage. Heavy attacks are Zola's offensive bread and butter. Once he got his disintegration chain started, try to keep it going as long as possible with more heavy attacks to maximize damage. Throwing heavy attacks at the wall while the opponent doesn't have a special ready is a good way to chain them together, and activating a special attack before your heavy ends ensures that you can carry these disintegrations through the whole special. There you go. Now these disintegrations are only inflicted by Zola's hits and are only paused during his heavy or special attack, so he can't utilize strikers to extend these chains. Special attack 1, Living Technical Wonder. And this is kind of like your ramp up special for most part. An activation, gain 10% energize passive for 60 seconds. So it is a very long energize that you can, start spamming. And this is also going to make him more annoying on defense, because if you bait out the level 2, then you're going to get a disintegration placed on you that deals damage. So you ideally want to bait out level 1s, but once you start doing that more and more in the fight, he's going to gain more and more power effectively as you strike him. But that's why it says max stacks 5. The first hit grants also 1k Fury buff for 4 seconds, paused until the start of Zola's next special attack. This Fury provides a long-term boost to Zola's damage and also can help with a certain powerful mutant, boss in 6.22. If you're trying to keep Zola's special lock constantly active, this special attack is the cheapest and easiest access option. So his loop effectively is again, level 1, heavy spam, level 2. Special 2, on activation, inflict a 40% disintegration passive, dealing 1944 direct damage over 10 seconds. So it's not massive, but the 40% means that your combat power rate is reduced quite significantly. And also that will mean that it is something you don't particularly want to deal as you are fighting Zola, because not only you take damage, you gain power slower, so kind of sucks. And since it's passive, you can't willpower heal from it either. Each buzzsaw hit consumes one of Zola's personal energizers to inflict 10% disintegration passive, dealing 4k direct damage over 10 seconds. Straightforward enough. And Special 3, obviously we're not going to use that much, but it is quite unique, where you inflict an armor break on opponent, which is fair enough, for 20 seconds. I don't know why it says max stacks 5, because I don't really see how you would be able to get close to the 5 stacks of armor break if they last only 20 seconds. But most importantly, you gain a self-repair passive, healing 100% of Zola's missing health over 20 seconds. And if you get stunned, you lose it. And each time you use this special attack again in the same quest, you triple the duration of the regen, so the regen is significantly less potent. Signature ability, and signature ability is going to be, in my opinion, very important for Zola. So first of all, signature ability in the fight gives him psychic shielding tag. So it means you're immune to reverse controls from specific champions, primarily mutants. Striking a sleeping opponent grants Zola an unblockable passive for 12 seconds. That is going to help you deal with stand your ground mastery or some pesky auto blocks that champions might have. And when Zola's special attack ends, remove his disintegration debuffs. Each debuff deals a burst of 388 direct damage. So that effectively gives him additional damage. Given that his damage was marked down as 3, I believe, I do think this is going to be absolutely needed to be able to do fights in a reasonable time. And that is it for him as a champion. I genuinely think he's going to be a very, very important champion that comes into the game. I do think we're going to see him everywhere, because he can be a defensive juggernaut, kind of like a sentinel. If you do not have the right things to bypass his damage reduction, you're just going to time out against him, or, get smacked by sleep. Because he will have counters, but you will need to find them. I think somebody like Kate is actually borderline perfect against him, where you can get easy access to heavy attacks. But yeah, you will want to utilize stuff like miss mechanics, for instance, to land your heavy attacks, potentially maybe even, unstoppable mechanics and, eat a hit against him, or being able to parry non-contact attacks is going to be important. And yeah, you just kind of have to be able, number one, keep knocking him down, and then you also, can't rely on crits too much. So he needs big basic attacks and damaging effects. I actually think Photon could be good against him, potentially. We'll see. But he does look quite annoying in defense, and if we take a look at the more kind of like dominant defensive champions, obviously, as a tech champion, I think he counters just about everything in the mutant class. He should be good against Onslaught, for instance, because his ability accuracy cannot be reduced. He doesn't want or care for willpower. And one second, need to move my display capture down a bit. And yeah, I think he's going to be a great Onslaught counter. He should be a great Domino counter. I think he will have no problems with bishops. and just about anyone in the mutant class. So I think, on paper at the very least, should be able to destroy all or almost all of the mutants, maybe with the exception of Havoc, because he doesn't have the armor break. But then again, if you special lock one Havoc, you take that threat away, so I don't think that's going to be much of an issue either. Yeah, I think he destroys mutants quite thoroughly, which is super important. I do think he should have solid go against a bunch of champions from different classes too. For instance, against the thing could be messy because of the 15 hit count. It could potentially be a photon counter as well. It doesn't bypass miss, but spam your heavies, you prevent her from. If you can nuke down a photon, I think it might work. We'll have to remain to be seen, but potentially that. I do think he's going to be doing well against other tech champions as well. His core rotations are quite undisturbed here, and perhaps most importantly, he should be good against some of the skill champs too, especially as defenders. With the Korg being... Does he do bullseye quite well? I wonder if you can do bullseye with him. You could prevent him from throwing special ones. It might be a bit slow, but you special lock bullseye level 1 and level 2 is super easy to dex. Still have to deal with the weight, but wonder how you do that. Yeah, it would be quite interesting to see how he does against some of these matchups for sure. I'm interested in him. I think he would do quite well. I think if he's nukey enough, if he's fast enough, which again, I think will largely depend on his sig level. He could be very good against quite a few Mystic champions too. Obviously, I don't expect him to do much against most of the Cosmic class defenders, like Thanos, because you're spamming way too many hits and you have nothing to deal with Unstoppable. Serpent, I don't think you can do much there either. So yeah. Nonetheless, though, I think he's going to be quite a versatile champion by the looks of it, if his damage holds up. And the fact that he is a dual-purpose champion and has a defensive set definitely helps him out quite a bit. So that is Zola. Let me know what you guys think, and I'm going to catch you guys soon. Bye-bye. Hello there, guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about